So let's check in whether or not people are getting Battleforce fatigue, and whether Games Workshop's latest wave of big boxes are selling. A slight bit of disappointing news on the price hike that's coming within the next 24 hours, and a few thoughts as to what's next for Warhammer 40k and Games Workshop in the next few weeks. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where it's been really quite a busy weekend on the channel. A great big update to the game in the new Pariah Nexus mission deck that I covered yesterday, and two new codexes for the Adeptus Auroritas and the Genestealer Cult. I managed to get the Sisters Codex one done last night. Hopefully I'll be able to finish off the Genestealer Cult one today. I was pretty interested to check in on how Games Workshop's launch of the entire release has gone though. How hard were the battle forces to get a hold of at discount or through Games Workshop themselves? I was a bit disappointed to see some more bad news on the price hike, as I had not realised that some codexes were going up, and then talk a little bit about what might be coming next for Games Workshop over the next few weeks. Let's start out with the big Battleforce sets. I was kind of curious as to whether or not the Sisters and Genestealer Cult ones would have sold out or not. Games Workshop over the past few releases has tended to underproduce these more than overproduce. It seems the idea for the Codex launch ones that they just make enough that they know will almost definitely sell. Means they don't get any wastage from those launch boxes and they're in high demand. Though in the process do make a lot of their customers annoyed at them if they advertise something at them and then they literally don't even give you the opportunity to buy it even if you wanted to. The last 40k Codex took that to about the biggest extreme that I'd seen so far with the Chaos Space Marines. They had the Dread Talons and the Veterans of the Long War. That one was really quite hotly anticipated, as Chaos are a popular faction, and in particular the Veterans box was a high in demand one. Though for Apollo release the day after, it looks like 75% of people who'd attempted to pick one of these up hadn't been able to get one. Pretty annoying to a whole bunch of collectors out there, and feels like Games Workshop's probably leaving a lot of money on the table that they could have sold people Battleforce box sets to, though I would guess that in the days and weeks after that might have gone down a bit due to physical copies appearing in stores. Though I'm sure there's still lots of Chaos collectors out there who left disappointed. This time round it was the Sisters and Genestealer Cult, which are far less widely played factions, though still have their own followings, so I was curious to see how they went. While we are on the subject of these as well, they will be the subject of the July Battleforce giveaway. 6 copies of your choice of either the Army of Faith or the Biosanctic Brood Surge given away to channel viewers, as I do similarly with the channel giveaways each and every month. If you want a bit more explanation as to how to enter that, if you want to, I'll talk through it at the end of the video. Getting back to the actual Battleforce demand though, it looks like these ones maybe were a bit more muted in reception compared with the Chaos ones. This was a poll of what Sisters and Genestealer players actually were intending to buy. It looks like the Genestealer Cult Combat Patrol was actually in more demand than the Battleforce box sets, though both of the big boxes were kind of evenly sought after. It looks like the Army of Faith, with its kind of weird all jump packs and an Exorcist kind of theme, turned a few people off versus the Biosanctic Brood Surge. And I guess that accounts for the fact that there's a fair few more Sisters players than Genestealer Cult players out there. Just taking a look at the Games Workshop web store now, it looks like at least in a lot of places around the world there's still availability on the box sets. Games Workshop tends to have 3 main shipping regions for where they keep stock. In the UK and Europe it looks like the Army of Faith is still present, though the Biosanctic Brood Surge is gone. In the USA and Canada, interestingly enough, it's the other way around. The Army of Faith box set looks like it's gone, though Biosanctic Brood Surge appears to be still there, and in Australia and New Zealand both sets are still there. They do seem to sell out a bit less regularly over there. I wonder if it might possibly have anything to do with the fact that they charge a massive markup versus other regions of the world. For the most part the box sets do seem to have been cleaned out of the discount retailers though. I did have a look at a fair few discount retailer stores around the world, and I could see a few places with some left, though the majority were out of stock. And for my channel discount retailer affiliates, it looks like the only one that has a stock of any of them is Element Games in the UK. They look like they're out of the Biosanctic Brood Surge, but still have good numbers of the Army of Faith at time of recording. Not sure how long that'll last, but certainly if you were looking to pick up that one, I'd check them out via the link in the video description rather than going through Games Workshop's web store, as basically it's the same thing but for 20% off, them doing a slightly higher discount than they sometimes do with their 15%. I guess if the Games Workshop web store still actually have a fair amount of them, there's at least a reasonable chance that there might be some restocks going around. Sometimes if Games Workshop struggled to sell out, they let discount retailers get another wave of stock, so that could be possible that a few more might go for discounts over the next few weeks, and in general there tend to be a few more going around in the actual in-store launch. Broadly speaking though, the general picture doesn't look like it's an enormous sellout everywhere, not compared with those Chaos Battle Forces that went very quickly indeed. It does make me wonder if they just made the exact same amount of Chaos box sets as these ones, even though the Chaos ones were going to be far more popular. To follow that up, I was interested to see how many people didn't manage to get what they wanted. This was basically the same version of the poll that I did for the Chaos Battle Forces. It was 75% in the red there. The vast majority of people not being able to pick up a box set if they wanted to go out and get one. Here it looks like it's more like 43%, which honestly, given the supply of box sets around the world, is higher than I might have expected. If people are answering this the way that I was intending them to, it looks like that'll be only people who are looking for the Army of Faith in the USA or the Biosantic Brood Surge in the UK and EU, as otherwise they're still in stock. Though I guess there might be an element of people who were looking to buy and just chose not to due to the prices, or were looking to buy if they could get a discount on it and couldn't find discount retailers offering them. In any case, it does seem like they weren't quite in as crazy demand, which I think probably was to be expected given the factions and the amount of players they have. Otherwise, just a heads up for folks that the price rises are basically almost upon us. Games Workshop had previously stated that things were going up between 3 and 5% on the 10th of June, and at time of recording it's the 9th here in the UK, so less than 24 hours until price rises take effect, and probably worth just being aware of that. I did see a bit of bad news with the releases at the weekend that I hadn't realised before. Previously I'd seen some sources saying that codexes wouldn't be going up, and indeed it looks like they weren't in the USA, they still stayed at $60, though it does appear that in the UK and the EU they have gone up. The Genestealer Cult and the Sisters codexes were listed at £37, so increasing £2 or €47.50, going up €2.50 there. So that was a slight error on my part when talking about price rises earlier. Obviously kind of disappointing, as the entire price rise is really. It's not exactly a new story from Games Workshop, they do tend to do something similar to this basically every year, and this one seems like it's broadly in line with inflation, depending on exactly where you are around the world. It has been kind of high. That still doesn't really wash with a lot of people. Just because the price of Warhammer are so arbitrary to begin with, Games Workshop just literally charges them at the price that they think the most people will pay and they can get the most money. Somewhat understandable from a business, but it does mean that the prices just aren't really too related to the overall cost of producing them, and Games Workshop is kind of making obscene profit margins at the moment, so if they wanted to not do a price rise this year and get some consumer goodwill and maybe have a few more people tempted to stick with their plastic kits rather than 3D printing or whatever, they absolutely could do. If you do still think that you're going to be picking up some Warhammer kits in the near future though, bear in mind that it's probably better today rather than say any time in the next few weeks or so. Obviously lots of people aren't exactly clamouring to reward Games Workshop with more money for price rises or anything like that, but if you have decided that you're going to pick up a plastic kit at some point, it just will be a bit of a dumb decision to buy it literally tomorrow or the day after versus before the price rises come out. It looks like a few of the discount retailers out there have already updated prices ahead of time. Just taking a look at my channel affiliate links, it looks like Element Games in the UK still has the pre-rise prices, and they do have some big stocks of most things, usually between 15 and 20% off. And Wargame Portal in the USA seems to have their 15% off on most things, though it's only being applied to in-stock stuff, so it wouldn't apply to things that you can back order, and I'd expect both of those will go up by the proportionate amount tomorrow. As always, if you did choose to pick anything up through them, the link's down in the video description and do help support Auspex Tactics a little, though obviously only use them for things that you were getting anyway. Otherwise though, with Sisters and Genestealer Cult released, it is kind of interesting to think what's coming next for Warhammer 40k. Previously last year with 10th edition's launch, they gave us quite a long roadmap of what codexes to expect into the future. We had Sisters, Genestealer Cults, and one other mystery codex build for summer, so it does mean that things might slow down a little bit from here. Though I guess we are still expecting a bunch of slightly peripheral releases, things like the individual releases for 2 Chaos Lords and 4 Kill Team sets, the Mandrakes, Night Lords, Jaegers, and Brood Brothers. And then I guess the Benefactors and Jump Canoness that came out with the Genestealer Cult and the Sororitas release. Though given that the Battleforces and things literally only just went on pre-order, they're probably going to be a good while yet. Obviously we're expecting every single codex in the game to be updated in 10th edition unless Games Workshop surprise us by reinterpreting or consolidating any of them. That mystery codex has been rumoured to be Agents of the Imperium, which does look like it's coming at some point, but we don't know it's necessarily next. And if so, it's not impossible it could be some sort of bumper book, including things like Death Watch and Grey Knights rules in it. Definitely feels like that's something that they could do and still keep the armies kind of the way they were if they wanted, but that's all conjecture at this point, of course. Otherwise, we know there's two other major non-40k releases on the horizon. Age of Sigmar 4th edition is going to be released pretty shortly. That'll be with the whole new Skaven Tide box set, and I feel like the releases after that will probably take up at least a bit of time out of Games Workshop's schedule. Might be of interest to some of you, depending on how invested you are in the fantasy setting. By Games Workshop's last preview show, though, we've certainly got more on the way. There's the Horus Heresy Admech release, with the big box set, and then probably individual releases to come after that. And the Necromunda Hive Secundus box set, the one with the Freaky Gene Stealers and the Van Saren people. Looks like things might be a little bit quieter on the side of the 41st Millennium releases until Games Workshop tell us what the next codex is, which I honestly suspect probably won't be too far away. They generally like to keep us informed of what's coming a fair bit in advance. I'd say probably the most interesting thing on the horizon for 40k right now is the gaming developments that'll be happening in the next couple of weeks, which will get a big digital update for the new balanced data slate and points update, plus some new AdMech rules on the way, which I'm really looking forward to taking a look at, plus finally an FAQ document for 40k to just patch a few obvious holes in the game. Really looking forward to all of that, and I'll certainly cover it on the channel. That'll probably drop alongside some points costs for the Hernkin Jaegers and the actual points costs for the Genestealer Cult and the Sisters, and they're going to be pretty interesting to see what's going on with them, as I feel like there's probably some shifts in line for both of them if they want them to stay strong. I feel like Genestealer Cults probably have to go down given the sheer amount of nerfs in their codex, whereas the Sisters of Battle were already quite a strong army and got massively powerful detachments and massively boosted units. I feel like if we don't see some points increases for them, then I'll be kind of surprised. Will be interesting to hear when we do get some more news of codexes though. Really intrigued to see what form the Agents of the Imperium take and any other big releases they have coming later in 10th. I think we can be pretty confident already that Emperor's Children, Leagues of Votan and World Eaters will all get something at least fairly nice. I'm sure there'll be more besides. In any case though, let me know what you make of Games Workshop's news releases, price rises, and what's coming next. And as mentioned earlier, I will just cycle back to talk about the channel's July Battleforce giveaway. This is the one for the recently on pre-order Battleforce box sets, either the Army of Faith or Biosanctic Broodsurge. The giveaway will follow all the standard rules for the channel's regular ones. I have two equal ways to enter, links down in the video description. Either you can support the channel on Patreon for any amount, that is the thing that allows me to keep on making videos quite so regularly and cover the 40k news all the time, so a massive thank you to all the supporters there. Being a channel Patreon gets you automatic entry each and every month. Otherwise you can enter completely for free by supporting the channel on social media, helping the algorithms by subscribing to the YouTube channel and liking the Facebook page, and then to actually be entered for the draw, a Facebook post appears on the 1st of July. Respond to that post with a photo of any 40k mini or imagery, along with your name and the date handwritten within the same photo. The last bit just to make sure that it's real people out there and not Facebook bots or spammers. That post is active for 24 hours, and then after that I take all the Patreon and the Facebook entries, put them all into a random number generator, pick out the 6 winners, and they'll be announced on the channel update video around the 4th of July. Following that, I'll message the winners to ask you which box you'd like, and then post them when I've received my orders of them. Hopefully that should already be the case though, given that they've gone on pre-order now. In any case, if you'd like to enter either via the Patreon or via the social media, both the links are down in the video description below. In any case, I'd better get back to making Genestealer Cult Codex reviews. I'll hopefully be back for that later tonight, taking a more detailed look at what all these many-limbed cultists have to offer. Feel free to check back later or subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. I'll certainly keep up with Games Workshop's news and releases. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention the other things on the Auspex Tactics Patreon page. They're seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next, automatic entry to those giveaways as mentioned, and a few other bits like names and credits and Discord roles and things. If any of that sounds interesting, or you just like to help support and keep the videos coming, the link's down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.